Okay, so we're going to do the next dilution series, and this one is called 10 Tiny Dilutions. Right, so let's do it. So these were the old ones. So we're going to throw these away. We're finished with these. They've got live cells in, right? So they need to be autoclaved so they can go in this bag, and then all of this material will be autoclaved and sterilized before it's disposed of. Right, let's pick up another YPD plate. I'll label it. I'm A, it's YPD, and I think I said to write a descriptive label on it, so 10 times 10x and 0.316, that's our dilution this time. And you can verify for yourself that we're expecting with this dilution to get again 100 cells on the plate. So I'm going to put the beads on in advance this time. So again, just gently shake a few on like you were sprinkling salt on your food or something. It's already starting to get a bit surreal. Right, so 10 of our tubes. Pick out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
It is funny how often I measure food in the same way that I measure things in the lab. You know, like tapping it out of a bottle.
Yeah, I think there are some transferable skills. I think also the other thing, that you get good at is opening things with threaded lids with one hand, right? So quite often you're like, you get this really strong.
Or your toothpaste.
Yeah,
That's the easier one.
Right, that's 10. It wouldn't be a bad idea to label each of these, so it might be an easy way to keep track. I think it says to do that in the protocol, but I'm going to make sure there really are 10, otherwise I'm going to look like an idiot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I don't feel I need to label them. Right, let's put the right amount of liquid in. The right amount of liquid is 68.4. So which pipette are we going to use? P20 won't work, that only goes to 20 microliters. The P200 will work. It's not ideal. If we had a P100, that would be better because it would be closer to the middle of the range where the pipette is most accurate. But we've only got a P200, so that's okay. Right, this one's still set at 100 from our last use. So I'm going to wind it down to 68.4, 75, 68. So there isn't another dial for the fractions of a microliter, but we can use this scale here. That's.
Can you tilt it up a little bit more? Sorry, the other direction.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do it as close as we can to 68.4. All right.
So each little tick is 0.2, right?
Yes. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. And this one. Right. The yellow tip. Now let's make sure I loosen the lid. Good. Yeah, so as Jasmine pointed out, it's got a yellow label on the plunger thing, so it takes yellow tips. So the really small volume pipettes, what colour are the tips? They're just white?
They're variable depending on brand.
It breaks down because there is not such a standard
I think
for the small.
red is the most common.
Okay. Right. Kept our media sterile by being careful with the lid. Another kind of accident that might happen, you might drop the lid, and once it's been on the floor and fallen in all that dust, it's not going to be sterile, so you'd have to start with a new bottle if something like that happens. So again, I go in and be careful not to touch the sides of the bottle with the barrel of the pipette. Okay, I feel I didn't leave any in the tip. I didn't contaminate the tip, so I can just reuse the same one. I'm going to count, otherwise I'm going to get lost. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You won't wake up. Right. Put the lid on. Now we need to do our dilutions. So what is the volume? 31.6. Oh, so yeah, really we're getting in the rather inaccurate range of this P200 pipetta, but it's what we've got, so I'm going to put it down to 32.6. So you can get pipettas that go to 50. That would be the ideal one to use for this.
Although also other pipetters won't let you do things like 0.6. Like they might only go in 0.5s.
Yeah, so if we can't do that, then you have to round to the nearest. It's fine. Yeah, I'm all good. So I'm going to first vortex my mixture again, because the cells will have started to settle out. And I'll open it, put it in there. Press that volume, put it into the first one. We're diluting down the series, so we need to change the tip each time. I'm going to put the lid on that to stop it getting contaminated or from contaminating any other things. And get a new tip, pipette up and down to mix it, blow out whatever's left in the tip, make sure there's nothing in the tip, if there isn't, it's fine. So I'm going to take the volume, and so they don't get lost, close the lid. New tip.
So I noticed you left a space between the tubes.
Yeah, the only reason I did that is it's just easier to manipulate the lids on and off. You can also get these racks with different spacings. Yeah. Get up and down. Did I do it right? I feel like that's because I was answering the question, I've done something wrong.
See, this is why I'm afraid of talking to you about
No, it's all
food.
good, 'cause it'll be boring.
I'm so used to, like, if somebody's pipetting, maybe don't talk
Yeah,
to
don't
them.
say anything, yeah. Well, if you spot an error,
Yeah.
then do let me know if you're watching this. We're going to do this a few more times so that we get some data for you, so it's not a disaster. I've done this one wrong.
I mean, it's actually quite hard for us to see exactly what you're doing. Like when you're pipetting up and down, and then when you eject the liquid afterwards, it's hard for us to like know what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Duncan was talking about before. It's like when you're actually doing it, you have a better sense.
Yeah. It's also hard when you're doing something the first time, especially when you're reading the protocol and then transferring that into the actual actions. It's kind of, it's a bit confusing, isn't it, sometimes? And then once you've actually got through to the end, then you realise, oh, now I realise why they said to do that. Or, So just think, with all these pipetting steps, if there's any kind of sampling, well, there will be sampling error. We're taking a random sample of the suspended cells each time. Let me get rid of that before I start indicating things with it. The more of those kind of resampling steps you make, the more the error is going to be compounded. And you know, I'm not perfectly accurate. The pipetters are not perfectly accurate. So as a general principle, you would expect that if there are fewer such steps, you're probably going to get a better measure. But there are big disadvantages of using, you know, big volumes of liquid like this. It's a bit of a pain to weigh it all out. Our experimental design might try to optimize these factors to get the best kind of all-round system. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail because set you some challenge. Right. What do we pipette onto the final one? Right. So there's. I just pipetted in that final volume of 36.4 microliters into the soup. I have to look again. Yes, 31.6 microliters into 68.4. So there's 100 microliters in there, so I can set this back to 100 and pipette that 100 microliters onto the medium.
Is there exactly 100 microliters in there?
Well, there should be. So this will be interesting to see, won't it? So actually, just check it out. It's pretty good. Right, so I drew 100 microliters, and there's two kind of tiny, much less than 1 microliter drops left behind. So my pipetting was actually pretty good.
I mean, I think another thing to consider is that Duncan's pipetting is actually very good. The first time you do any of these things, you know, you might hit one of your tubes, or you might get some liquid stuck on the side of the tube, and if any of that liquid isn't in the bottom, it's going to affect your dilution, right?
Yeah.
You might have to do things to compensate.
Okay, so I'm going to let the plate absorb all the liquid. So again, I can just tip it up and make sure there's no liquid left. Tap them onto the lid. So these plates are quite fresh, so there's a lot of condensation on the lids, but that doesn't matter in itself because it doesn't contain any cells, but it does make the whole plate a bit wetter. So when they're like that, they take longer for your to absorb the media. The cell suspension. Okay, I better stop nattering.